Time you are, Ken. Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the Town of Hollis Finance Committee meeting. It's March 4th, 2025. We'll start with a roll call. And to my left,
John Moran.
Joe Ponzetti.
Dan Urumian.
We do have a quorum, so I call this meeting to order. Old business. First, review and approval of the minutes. Unfortunately, the minutes have been delayed, so we will table that to our next meeting. Moving on to old business, there isn't any. New business, we will start with our budget on insurance, and presenting will be Roger Hicks, Select Board.
Okay. Evening. For 25-26, it's going to be 565, 545. I know that's an increase, but we've been looking at insurance going up. Last year it was 9%, and then I'm projecting probably 10% next year to add to the other half of the budget. So it's just been increasing, and we've added a couple more people to the insurance, so now it's a total of 23. Workers' comp has gone up, and unemployment contribution went up. Also, dental insurance went up. Health insurance, like I said, it breaks down, and we have HRA that we include in that, plus property and casualty, which is 47,000 of that.
Roger, I just have a couple questions.
Go ahead.
The dental insurance went up about 22%. Is that because we have more people on
More
it, or is
people.
that just more people?
Yep.
So it's not just the increase. The health insurance went up 31%. Is that just the increase, what healthcare costs, or is that because we have more employees on it?
Both. Like I said, I believe 23-24 went up. I believe it was 7 to 8%. 24-25 is 9%, and I'm projecting 25-26 to be about 10% on the increases, plus the couple added positions that we had.
So that's $86,000 more than last year.
Correct.
Is that something that you can shop out, or is that something that we need to stay with a single carrier?
Well, we're through MMA,
Oh, or through MB, that makes sense.
Yep.
Yeah.
so they carry most of our insurances.
Do you think at some point we're going to have to look at having some kind of contribution by the employees?
We've talked about that, yes. But it depends on the percentages and the savings part of it too.
Well, you may have
But
to.
I mean, in lieu of looking at the other towns around us, most of the towns pay for the employee itself. Right now, we don't pay any part of the family plan. So,
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense to be comparable, but I don't know if it makes more sense to increase the wages and decrease the benefits, seeing as the wages go up. Your wages don't go up 20% a year. I don't know. I think everybody's facing the same problems. All the surrounding towns we're all facing. Anybody in business is facing the problem of insurance. I don't have an answer. I'm just curious as to what you think we should be looking into, next year.
well, I think that's a discussion that when we have a workshop, we need to start studying where can we start
Yeah.
looking towards more savings for the town.
That might not be a bad idea for next year, to have a workshop, maybe before you prepare all the budgets, to look at some of the things that, like our trash, like our snow plowing, and see if there's other options in some of these line items that are just just blown up over the last year or two.
And I notice when we go out to bid, it usually goes up.
Yeah, and substantially over last year, especially,
Correct.
you know, what we're looking at this year. And my other question is, what's HRA?
That is a health reimbursement. A portion of that goes into a pot, and there are certain parts of the insurance that gets reimbursed to the employee, I believe, correct?
Okay, I'm not familiar with that, but that's pretty
Yeah.
typical.
Our insurance expert has been it.
Yeah, Brenda, could you give me a little background on that, please?
Sure. So the healthcare reimbursement accounts are available to kind of make up for what the overall costs are for the employee. So if they pay outside of the 80 or 90% of a service, that gets reimbursed. That was put in place when for years ago, they had put that healthcare reimbursement service in place for all of the employees that had benefits. And it's $1,500 per person per year. I don't like to compare it. It's not like a health savers account where you can contribute money. Sometimes an employer will also contribute to that certain account, and you can use it for future use as well. I know Maine Medical Center has a health savers account, which I would prefer. But whatever monies are not used, I believe are carried forward into the next year. So that there's whatever it isn't like it's used and then just, I think, put into the general fund. I think that they actually push it forward to the next year. So, and Diane may actually have some information regarding how much is actually spent in healthcare reimbursements per year. I want to say it's not even half of what is budgeted usually.
So that just keeps accumulating?
No, I don't think it keeps accumulating. I think that it forwards into the next year.
So does the next year get adjusted to, would this 30,000 be reduced by whatever is carried forward?
That I'm not sure of.
It also depends on what is left in the account at the end of the budget cycle, and I believe this is one of the accounts that didn't have any left in it at the end of 23-24.
And it's basically for out of pocket or whatever deductible there might be there, this would cover it for the employee.
Correct.
Correct. Okay, I understand. Thanks.
And again, like I said, this is something that maybe when we sit down, we start this a little bit earlier.
Yeah.
And we start looking at things, especially as a group between the select board and the finance committee, to see if there's any way that we can improve these.
Yeah, I think next year, if we can get together and maybe before you prepare your budgets, we can have some kind of a workshop, that would be helpful. Don, do you have anything?
I do. Workman's comp, who's the underwriter for that? Is that Mimic?
That's MMA.
So you budgeted last year 49,000.
Yep.
You actually expended 60,433. And this year the budget is $110,000.
Right.
Is that?
It's our bill, $99,000.
What the hell is driving that? Pardon my English. Did we have claims?
I believe we've had claims, correct?
But nothing out of the ordinary. We probably have some claims every year.
Yeah, but it depends on the extent of the claim and duration too.
There was
So,
nothing unique this year, though, to drive it so
But this
high.
is why I knew you'd mention that. That's why I brought the bill with me.
So did we get reimbursement from Mimic this year? Refunds on our premium? Like every year they award so much money back to the policyholders? Did we get money back?
I know what you're talking about. We did. I don't think it's that much.
Well,
I
this,
don't-
this is really a very concerning budget that went from $409,000 to $565,000.
Mhm.
That's a $155,000 increase.
Right,
Yep.
it's a 38% increase.
Yep.
In 1 year.
And that's why I said, I'm looking at the percentages of the increase. I mean, 24, 25, 9%, and 25, 26, I'm projecting 10%. They've just been constantly going up.
So have you, in your mind, calculated overall, after all these budgets are approved, how much of an increase is gonna be going to the voter from last year's budget?
And that's why, once you get done approving what you're gonna do, yes, I do. And then we have to sit down and look at what our anticipated revenues are gonna be to help offset that. And right now, I checked out the anticipated revenues today, and so far, we're about 2,630,343. That's come back during the year so far. And it was 3,361,000 that I believe that was on the warrant article, so I think we're in line to get our anticipated revenues for the year.
Wow. So did you inquire of Mimic as to why there was such an increase? Did they give you an explanation for that? Is it possible they might have made a mistake?
I don't think
They
so.
got some
said-
numbers wrong or something from you folk?
No, they sent it out, and
Wow. Okay, thank you. Holy cow.
Yeah, it's a, major increase, for sure.
mm,
Okay. Uh, All right, do we have a motion to approve this insurance budget?
I'll make a motion to approve.
All right, Don, do you want to second that?
I will.
Okay, any further discussion? All in favor? All right, we'll move forward to our next item, which is the retirement proposal. Roger, you want to kind of run us through it?
basically the largest part of that will be on the fire department side of it. It went up about 30,000, and the other employees kind of dropped. It dropped down to about 20,000, but still you have an increase of roughly 22,000. And that's on top of looking at the increases, which is main purse, it was 10.2. The others went down a little bit, but
Why would the fire department go up 62% and then other employees decrease?
they're in a different plan.
But the majority, like you said, the majority of all that increase is in the fire department.
They've also had an increase in staffing.
So there's
Correct.
more individuals that were on the plan.
They have,
Yes.
now have 6 full-time, plus Chris, plus,
Right, we've got more people that we brought on board trying to adjust part of the wages instead of paying overtime.
How do you think, Roger, our the fire department is well over $1 million. How do you think that on a percentage basis equates with surrounding towns? Do you think that we're right even with what other towns pay, municipalities
Oh, as
pay?
far as salary wise and
No, I
things
mean
like
just for a
that?
total budget.
Yeah, because
towns of equal size,
I had asked that, well, especially at Waterboro, and they're going up 3%. But then when we started going back and forth about that, we're dealing with the same pool of people, except for the full-timers. Now, you've got other towns in professional fire departments like Bedford, Saco, Wyndham, they're paying more money.
but I'm just curious as to whether or not, like Waterboro, they pay $1 million for a fire department?
I didn't ask them the total budget,
Or, I wonder what Buxton pays.
and we're kind of comparable as far as wages, but the paramedic costs are,
Yeah, I understand the wages, and when Chris, presented the other day, and he was explaining how, each town is competing for in the same labor pool, and, you don't go anywhere if you try to offer less. But I'm just curious as to where we stand on a percentage basis or, budget basis when we have, it's such a big part of our overall budget.
Yep.
This
Maybe
this committee 2 or 3 years ago asked those same questions, and we encouraged the town to hire someone to do a study of exactly the questions that you're asking. So they found someone to do a study, and the person came and made a report to this committee and assured us that we were in the ballpark with all the other towns, and there was nothing unusual about what we were doing and all this kind of thing. Unfortunately, for me anyway, the person who did the study was a retired fireman. So that, to me, was a conflict of interest. It wasn't somebody that was truly independent, that was doing a cost analysis of our fire department and compared to other fire departments. It was done by a retired fire department person. So it was kind of slanted, I thought, but we accepted it and went on, so.
oh, and again, this is why I was talking that in the fall, we have a workshop. The select board and the finance committee, we start reviewing these and finding out, or if we do that again, Don, sit there and find somebody independently to check into it. Or maybe the town manager that we hire may have some insight on cost savings.
Because you take the cost out of here that's for the fire department, and you take the cost of the 1% that's for the fire department, and that puts their budget well over $1.5 million.
Yep.
That, and I don't think most people in our community understand that. That's why I made so much fuss this year about getting the wages and the benefits on the line with their budgets, so that people could really see how much they're spending for these things, so.
Yep.
I mean, if the legislative body, the voting community wants to support it, I'm fine with it. We're supposed to be here to try to find solutions to issues, so.
Well, I think we should put that definitely on the, when we do this workshop. I think, the benefits, the fire department, and maybe a few other items we can talk about, once we get to trash removal and snow plowing and, the options of having our own municipal road crew and some of these, I think it's time where we really have those, real strong discussions about how we go forward. And other towns are doing things differently. They have a works department, and maybe we should be thinking that those types of avenues to us may be a real savings in the future. So, I think we should add that, have that workshop, and certainly those types of items we can review. And I know, Roger, you've been right on top of all this, and you have some pretty good ideas. So,
Yep, because
we can talk through that.
I think with this budget coming up, we're on the turning point on how much money the town. I mean, how much can the taxpayers constantly pay? I mean, even the state is going up with all of their stuff. I mean,
Just comment on this budget here. We put this to the voters to add this retirement plan, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
Yes.
So like, talking about this and saying, okay, well, this is, the fire department's a big budget, yeah, they are, but everyone voted to give all the town employees this retirement package, and this goes along with all the people who work at the fire department. I definitely don't disagree that there's a big expense there, but I just feel like this is something that got voted on. We gotta give the employees a retirement to keep the turnovers down. You know, I don't see anything wrong with putting a retirement, because we've not had one for how many years, you know? Say one other job who only got retirement three years ago, you know?
Well, it will be going in front of the voters in June, so
Right.
they will have that opportunity.
I'm not against any retirement reward packages, definitely not. I'm only concerned about our overall cost.
Right. Okay, let's, do we have a motion to accept the retirement budget?
I'll move to pass the budget.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? Okay, all in favor? Okay, we will move on to the next item, which is FICA and Medicare. I don't know what our options are, but it's a huge increase.
Yeah,
Another major increase.
On top of that is that Family Medical Leave Act. That's one of the biggest increases. That's almost $22,000 added on to last year's. That's, and I know they've got legislation that they're trying to repeal this. Whether or not they do is,
Yeah,
but it's another thing that you learn that, boom, here you go. You got to pay for it.
so I mean, there's no real debate here. That's what it is. It's up
It's
30%. It's up $43,000 over last year.
Yep.
I don't know what, do we have any options? I don't know what they would be.
You've got your Social Security, which is 6.2% of the total wages, and you get your Medicare, that's 1.45%. Now we've got the Family Medical Leave Act, which is 1%.
So the Social Security is the town's share, not the employee share too in there. It's just the town's share, right?
Right. Right, that's a, you take the total wages and you multiply it by 6.2% to get that number, which is the 133, 154. And then Medicare is the 1.45% that you multiply it, and then you come up with 31,141, and then your 1% is 21,477.
Not much you can do about those numbers.
No, not really.
Move to approve.
Second.
Second,
I guess.
any further discussion? All in favor? Okay, non-municipal. I do have a conflict of interest here, so I'll recuse myself of anything that has to do with the Buxton Hollis Historic Society. But that being said, let's take a look at this. Oh, I do want to make one comment, though. And if you look at the 25-26, what was asked for by these different programs and is not $17,760, because what Roger is putting in his budget is $18,200, which adds up correctly, but what was asked for does not add up correctly. We're not going to give them more than they are asking for, so it looks a little bit skewed, because they're asking, where Roger's proposing to budget $18,200, and they were apparently only asking for less, $17,760. But it's really irrelevant, because that column is what they're asking for, and what the budget amount is correct. So, just in
Right.
case anybody looked at it, I didn't want them to think we're proposing to give more than was asked for. So, that being said, you want to go through it, Roger?
Total
Yeah.
should be less.
Yeah, go to your far left column, Mine says APV, but the way you printed on yours, you'll see part that says select. When you see 25, 26, that line there is what they asked for. Then the select board got together, we reviewed it, they made comments on the sheet, and I put to the file F column, the 18,200 is what the select board recommended.
How could that be? How could the ask column, which has much larger numbers, be 17,760?
It's a math
actually
error.
It's actually 21,760.
It's
I made
actually, right, it's actually 21,
I added
760.
one in.
Okay.
I added one in, Don. I forgot to bring the numbers
Okay.
forward.
But I didn't want somebody to go back at some point and looking at that and say, well, you gave them more than they asked for.
Right,
So it's, the real
No,
number
it's-
is 21,760.
okay.
Correct.
And the number that they want to appropriate is 18,200.
Correct.
Move to approve.
Okay. Second?
I'll make a second.
Any further discussion? Okay, we good. All in favor? Okay. And our last item is the trash budget. And this
Yeah.
is, another one of those items that just, we can't seem to get a way to find to reduce the cost or hold costs. It's just one of those that are just keep on going up.
Excuse me, Mr. Chairman, point of order. On the last vote,
Yes,
I need, Dan and Don voted. You
they did. I recused myself.
Oh,
Yeah, because of the Historic Society. I don't really want to vote on that. Having a conflict with my wife being very involved in it.
Ah.
So it does pass. Roger, you want to?
actually, I need out of the five of you, I need three. So
you
if
still-
you
you
want,
need
we
three?
can table
Well, then
that
I-
one until next week.
Well, no, it's up to these two fellows whether or not they
I think you should vote.
think I should recuse.
I think you should vote because that's only one
I don't
line.
see any, I think you should vote too. I don't see
Okay.
any problem with it.
All right,
You're not having that much impact on the total overall budget of that.
that's fine with me as
Did you
long
draw a
as,
salary from them?
no, I do.
You don't.
Neither does my wife. We do not have any financial interest or gain from it.
I'm
Okay,
fine
I
with you
vote,
voting.
I vote in favor. So you-
Okay.
You do have three.
Now it passes.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, yeah, let's move these things along so we don't, we can keep moving forward. Roger, you want to present the trash budget?
Yeah, that one went up too. So we had put it out to bid. We got a number of bids, and it's a 5-year contract. And
Escalating contract or a fixed number for 5 years?
this one is going to be fixed for 5 years that we chose. The other one, the lowest one, was fixed, but we met with both lowest bidders. The lowest bidder didn't have equipment and intended to buy it. They didn't have backup. They were only going to have one truck. They didn't have, it was going to be 3 people. They didn't have the dumpsters that we have that we use also. So after interviewing the lowest two, we went with the second lowest bid, which is $300,000 a year for 5 years. The others were even higher than that.
Any clauses in the contract in case there's an exorbitant cost for fuel, like we had a few years ago? Is there anything in there to cover that?
Yes.
Okay,
That's, you're thinking of the 50 houses or more. That was what we got into, I think, last year or the year before, that we had to come before you and ask for more money to cover the cost of the contract, but that is written into the contract this time. And we felt this was at the best interest of the town because of the number of pieces of equipment this company has, the personnel they have, and plus they have roll-offs and all the dumpsters that we're gonna need. because we have a dumpster here and we have one at the sports complex.
This is a different company than we have currently, correct?
That is correct.
That's probably a good thing.
And so that's your biggest increase is going to be, is going from 198 a year to 300,000. And then, again, we have an increase from Eco Maine too. They went up another $10 a ton. They've gone to 107.50 for a ton for trash, and they've gone to $85 a ton for recycling. So those are your increases. I even lowered the tonnage after reviewing the years and how many tons we've been dumping. I adjusted the tonnage too, and it still come out more money because of the increased cost. So you're going from 140,400 to 150,500 and 22,750 to 25,500 for our tipping fees.
So as part owner of Eco Maine, which Hollis is, are we getting any revenue from them?
We don't get revenue, we get a discount on tipping fees. So if we were a non-member, I think there was something like a $20 a ton difference that we would pay.
Thought a few years ago, when they were generating power with their burn, that we were getting revenue from them.
And that's part of why we don't pay the full tipping fees.
Okay.
Part of that goes to offset the cost of our tipping.
So Roger, we have an escalator clause for fuel. Is there anything if we exceed the tonnage amounts that you're anticipating?
I don't believe so on reviewing it because I did the numbers. I think Jack did the numbers too. We looked at this real hard as far as tonnage.
So we increased to about 115,000 from last year, but that's going to be fixed for the next 5 years.
Correct.
Was the lowest bidder price fixed too? I saw like the
It
total
was-
amount was on
It
the
was
website.
218,000.
So over $80,000 less than the nearest bidder. And we didn't feel that was a way to try to save some money.
They didn't have equipment. He would have had to buy a truck.
Well, it doesn't start
And
until June, right, or July?
Yep, and then I have to look at what is the best interest for the town too. I'm looking at equipment, and I'm looking apples to apples.
So they didn't
And I
have,
mean, the other company has, have three,
If the truck
oh.
broke down, they would have to rent a truck from Portland, so they don't have a backup truck. They only have two people.
they had two people that were going to dump trash with a third of, maybe available if he wasn't working for Dayton Sand and Gravel. They just didn't have the staff and the equipment. They couldn't empty our dumpsters without renting equipment.
so we did a lot of research on this before we made a decision.
Are they bonded? Do we ask for a bond for any of these types of services?
Not on this one, not. Normally I would, but we were talking about a percentage that we hold back each month and
Yeah.
then pay it off at the end of the year.
Yeah, well, I'd be cautious to pick the lowest bidder if you felt that they weren't capable, and especially if there was no bond included. We certainly don't want to end up in a situation like we have currently.
Right.
So, I like the idea that you locked it in for 5 years.
But that's
Well-
only the contractors, 5 years. The cost of tipping fees and things could go up. The only thing that's gonna
Yeah.
be fixed is the 300,000.
Correct.
As long as we don't build too many houses, right? Is it, if there's so many more houses that they
Well,
get
it stays unless you go over 50 new houses.
50 in 5 years? We'll
Yeah,
go
and
with
I
that.
think we paid $64 a house for every new house. So that's what the difference was when we asked for more money the last time.
Yeah.
So when we
Well,
get to that point,
But that's
then- Mm-hmm.
understandable. I mean, somebody moves into town, they pay taxes, and that's
Mhm.
part of what they pay taxes for. So,
Correct.
you know, that's just the way it goes. All right, well, anybody want to make a motion on trash?
I yield to you, Dan.
Move to approve.
I'll second. Any further discussion? Okay, all in favor? All right. We don't have anybody here from the public, so there is no public comment. I don't think we have anything on Zoom. Are we Zooming? Okay, there's nobody Zooming in.
So that
Your next scheduled meeting,
would be next Tuesday,
the March 11th?
correct, at 6 o'clock, and we are hoping to get snow bids tomorrow night, and that will finish out what we're looking at. There was another article that we were gonna put together because we have windows that we need to replace on this building and the sports complex, and we were even talking about the library, but we've gotta get some prices on the library. We still have the $45,000 to use from the last warrant.
So that'll be our next meeting, and that'll wrap up your budget?
I hope so, yes.
All right, I'm sure you're looking forward to the end of it as well. Yeah. Very good. All right, well, thank you, everybody. That's the end of the meeting.
If there's any other warrant articles, I'll be sure to notify you via email before next week.
Great. All right, we'll see everybody next Tuesday. Thanks. Motion to adjourn.
But we just need to have somebody win the lottery.
The motion is made, seconded, and voted.